On the 333rd day of the war, January 22, 2023, the President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelenskyy announced that after a series of corruption scandals, the next days will become a week of decisions.
The Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine dismissed the Deputy Minister who was exposed by National Anti-Corruption Bureau employees from his post. Law enforcement officers have every opportunity to conduct an investigation and send this proceeding to court. And I want this to be our signal to anyone whose actions or behavior violate the principle of justice. Of course, now the focus is on defense, foreign policy and war. But this does not mean that I do not see and do not hear what is said in society at different levels, both at the central and in the regions.
The one the president was talking about is Vasyl Lozynsky. Prior to dismissal by the Cabinet of Ministers, he served as Deputy Minister for the Development of Communities, Territories and Infrastructure. National Anti-Corruption Bureau and Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office accuse Lozynsky of taking a bribe in the amount of $400,000 for the purchase of equipment and machinery at inflated prices. After the first court hearing, Lozynsky said that he did not agree with the charges and did not participate in the corrupt deal.
There was no such fact because if there had been, I would have been in all the photos with the money, and I was detained in Kiev without money and without valuables.
Now the former high-ranking official, according to the decision of the High Anti-Corruption Court of Ukraine, is under round-the-clock house arrest. He faces up to 12 years in prison. January 23rd, in his video message, Volodymyr Zelenskyy announced several important decrees that he has signed during the day. In particular, the head of state announced changes in the structures of the central government, regions and law enforcement agencies, and also spoke about the decision taken at the meeting of the National Security and Defense Council.
There is a fundamental decision of the National Security and Defense Council on the departure of officials abroad. This applies to all officials of the central government, various other levels of local authorities. This applies to law enforcement officers, people's deputies, prosecutors, and all those who should work for the state and in the state. If they want to rest now, they will rest outside the state service.
On Tuesday morning, January 24th, 4 deputy ministers of various institutions, 2 deputy heads of the Civil Service of Maritime and Inland Water Transport and Shipping, a deputy prosecutor general and a deputy head of the Office of the President were fired. According to Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the head of the office, such personnel decisions of the President of Ukraine testify to the key priorities of the state.
No blind eyes. During the war, everyone should understand their responsibility. The President sees and hears society, and he directly responds to a key public demand – justice for all. Mikhailo Podolyak, advisor to the head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, on Twitter.
The government of Ukraine, by order of President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, also dismissed the heads of 5 regional military administrations – Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, Sumy, Kherson and Kyiv. The latter, Alexei Kuleba, has been appointed to replace Kirill Tymoshenko as deputy head of the Office of the President. According to the Prime Minister of Ukraine, Denis Shmyhal, such personnel reshuffling is necessary in order to build a European model of governance in the country.
Our government continues to carry out other reforms necessary for the state. This in particular concerns the building of an anti-corruption architecture. We are talking about systematic, consistent work that Ukraine needs and is an insatiable condition for European integration.
The European Union has commented on the wave of dismissals in the Ukrainian government in some central government bodies, as well as on the dismissal of several heads of regions. A representative of the European Commission, Anna Pissoneiro, said that Ukraine's efforts to carry out anti-corruption reforms were welcome.
We have taken note of the announcement that the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine is investigating these cases. You know the general rule that we do not comment on ongoing investigations, but we welcome the fact that the Ukrainian authorities are taking this seriously. Anna Pisonaro, Enlargement, Neighborhood International Partnership spokesperson in the European Commission, at a briefing at Brussels.
The defensive war waged by Ukraine requires the maximum concentration of officials on a single goal – victory. Therefore, the decisions of the president may seem tough, but this is a signal for everyone who is now in power, analyst Volodymyr Zelenskyy says.
This should bring to sense other officials who may also have begun to think about personal interests in a war. I see the main point in this. There is a personal shake-up, which should remind you that there is a war going on, and in war conditions, you need to live and work in accordance with the requirements of war and wartime. But this is a signal to society and our international partners. In particular, it is a signal that the country continues, and not only continues, but intensifies the fight against corruption. And in relation to unscrupulous officials, direct, obvious abuses which are under investigation are not important.
Volodymyr Zelenskyy says that outrage at the actions of some officials has reached a peak. That is why it will now be effective to replace them with those who can responsibly perform their duties. And according to the experts, the process of dismissal is not over yet. Reported by Serhiy Kulas, Natalia Belkudrya, UATV News.